Okay, so basically this move knight to b6 stops the move knight to d5, and after this rook to c1 by Fischer. But guys, here instead of rook to c1, white can however goes for knight to d5. This is because after takes bishop to b7, targeting this pawn, but simply takes and b3. Basically, we want to stop this move c4, and at the end you can see that we have an advanced d pawn which cannot be attacked by this rook, because this dark square bishop is just eyeing towards this d8 square, and clearly you can see that white is better. Suppose if black tries to close this diagonal by playing f6, instead of taking our bishop back, here white can actually play queen to d3, targeting on h7. And suppose if h6, then black is lost. This is because queen to h7 check, king to f7, queen to g6 check, king to e7, and rook takes e5 check, taking benefit of this pinned pawn. And after this king moves, rook takes e8, rook takes e8, queen takes e8, and now white is threatening mate in 1. And to stop this, suppose if queen to e7, bishop to f4 check, and the only move is to capture this pawn. But after this, rook to d1 check, king to e6, and finally rook to d6 checkmate. Okay, so let's go back to our original game. After rook to c1, Okay, so basically black brings back his knight to b5 because if white captured this bishop on c5, then black can give a check from d4 square by the knight, which gives a very strong outpost to this knight. So that's why here Fischer decides to bring his king further to d3 square. But guys, here instead of taking on c5, in this position white can actually play this amazing move a6. This is because suppose if a black captured on a6, now comes bishop takes b4, taking benefit of this pinned bishop, and suppose after bishop moves, bishop takes d6, and clearly you can see that now white is a pawn up and having a completely winning position. Okay, so in the actual game, after knight takes c5, and now in this position, as you can see that this rook is under attack, as well as white is also threatening to capture this b4 pawn, and most of us will definitely save this rook by just sliding it, but in this position black shocks everyone by playing b3, completely sacrificing the rook. This is because suppose if white captures this rook, then after rook takes a7, now you can see that this position is equal. But why? Because of these strong pawns supported by this knight. Although black is a rook down, but having these strong pawn structure automatically makes this position equal for both. But how? Let me show you. Okay, so from here one thing is clear, that white cannot protect this a5 pawn. So that's why the best move for white is to just bring his king closer to these pawns so that he can capture these if okay, so now as I said, black will simply grab this pawn, and now now white can go for rook to a1, pinning this knight, but simply king to e7. And now you can see that in the next move black would slowly bring his king towards this d4 square, but due to this two rooks and the connected pawns, you can see that white will easily hold this position, and this position will automatically becomes equal. Okay, so in the actual game, after this move b3, now here the best move for white is to just slide his king to d2 so that he can stop these dangerous pawns, but instead he goes for rook to a1, which is a mistake because now you can see that black can simply reroutes his knight to first on b5 and then on this c3 square, targeting this king, which automatically provides this knight a better square. But black also missed that, and instead he goes for knight to c2. This is a mistake because now Fischer simply brings his rook to c1. In this position, you can see that now this rook to d1 might be the better option for white so that he can push this d pawn, but Fischer decides to take on c2, and now this position becomes equal, and it's better for black to just capture this bishop, but he blunders by capturing on c2. Because after capturing this rook, you can see that black destroyed his pawn structure, and yeah, white immediately brings his rook to c1. And in this position, black resigned. This is because after takes king to c6 with the idea of bishop to d6, blocking the route of this rook. So that's why the only move for black is to just give up his rook. And after takes, you can see that game over. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.